Hey guys, I'm Angela and welcome back to Hobby Night. This week in Warhammer news, GW celebrates the release of Dominion. But before we get to all of that Age of Sigmar 3rd edition goodness, I wanted to talk about the Wurrboy that we got previewed this week because we have a new orc model for the 40k verse and he looks really cool and he has a really awesome psychic power in my opinion. It is called the Squiggly Curse, which just that alone is precious. I absolutely love the name of this ability, but what's really cool about it is if you get it off, it does mortal wounds to the target unit, which is great, but if any units or any models in that unit die from it, they then basically essentially turn into a squig themselves and attack a nearby friendly unit of theirs. And I think that's pretty cool. It does mortal wounds to them if it goes off. I think that is really fun, potentially very powerful, and it's an interesting diversion from what the Wurrboys are, because from my understanding, those guys are a little bit more long range, whereas this guy, the Wurrboy, seems a little bit shorter range, a little bit more targeted, but possibly a little bit more deadly. So it'll be cool to see him on the field. It's time now to talk about Age of Sigmar 3rd edition and the celebration that Games Workshop had over this weekend to basically talk about, hey, guess what? Dominion is out. People are getting their hands on it. Here's some cool influencers and all that kind of stuff that have painted up some models already. Let's take a look at them. But then they had a preview where they then decided to show off a number of new models that are coming out that go along with the Stormcast Eternal and the Kruelboyz Orruks, sorry. Not orcs, that is in 40k. And we're gonna talk about some of those cool models because there's some really interesting ones. I'm gonna start with the Vanquishers for the Stormcast Eternal. We're gonna start with the Stormcast Eternal, we'll get to the orcs later on. Let's talk about these glorious new boys. The Vanquishers, they've got great swords. I really, really like them. They kind of actually remind me, these particular models, of sort of an evolution on the Sisters of Silence, actually, with some of their posing, with some of the way that their armor's handled, with some of the like cloaks and stuff like that on them. I really, really like it. I think it could be really cool for some conversions. And I think they really just, I don't know, I really like these models. I'm really into this new direction that they're taking for the Stormcast Eternal, and the Vanquishers really speak to that. I also feel like they showed during the part where they were showing people painting up their miniatures and stuff like that, for those that had gotten the box already, they showed people who had done some conversions, switching some of the helmets out on the Stormcast Eternal, and the Vanquishers, and honestly a lot of them, I think could like really look cool with that, because that's the one thing that I'm not super thrilled by is sometimes their helmets and faces and stuff like that. So switching them out with more of a classic, almost medieval look, or some of the Space Marine heads and stuff like that could be really interesting and potentially like, I don't know, I feel like all of these Stormcast Eternal guys are great for conversions. So those are the Vanquishers. Let's now talk about the Vigilors. I think I wrote the name down wrong. I think I auto-corrected it, so I probably mispronounced it. It's the Archer guys. They look like scouts. So these ones, I know I'm probably gonna say this a lot. You're probably gonna hear me say that I really like a lot of these models. This is true. The thing that I particularly like about these models though, is the fact that GW has slowly started to be adding bowstrings to some of their sculpts for their archers, and I actually really like that. I know that there are a lot of really cool ways to get a wire or something like that between, or fishing line or something like that, to basically simulate the bowstring, but the fact that they're just having them sculpted in there, even though they are a little chonky, I think really works. And I don't know, there is a certain like gravitas and like presence that these models have that just really spoke to me as archer models, and I think the improvement's really cool. So I'm really happy to see this, and they've been doing this across a couple of different models. These are not the only ones that I've seen with bowstrings, so I'm really liking them. Now next up, we got to look at the Annihilators. Now these guys do come in the Dominion box set. The ones that come in that are push to fit. These guys, as all of these kits are going to be, will be multi-part. And I think that's really cool. A lot of people really like that because it gives you a lot more options, especially when you're wanting to kit bash and do some like changing things up and everything. So that's really rad. The thing that I thought was cool about the Annihilators is you're gonna get 2 options in the box that you can buy that's separate from Dominion that will come with not only the single-handed hammers that you get in the Dominion box, but also some like 2-handed hammers. And I think these guys are going to be great for conversions for thunder hammers. I already had mentioned previously in a video when they first announced the Annihilators that I thought they would be great for possibly a Terminator substitute or something like that, and I continue to stand by that. I also really like the fact that in Dominion, the leader's shield, like chest plate, has a lion on it. In the preview, they showed us one with a bear on the chest, which I thought was really cool. I like seeing the different animals in there, the different spirit animals that they're all tied to and everything like that. I hope they continue to like do that throughout other kits and stuff and give us other animals on the chests that maybe tie to the lore and everything. That would be really rad. I think those are always just really fun touches, honestly, that are easy for GW to like add in without a lot of effort. Now, we've got the Knight-Relictor. I love this guy. He is definitely the thing that I can see of all of these models that is definitely going to be converted the most because he's essentially a chaplain. He looks like one. I think he would convert super well as one. It's probably what I'm honestly going to use one as because he looks really cool. Yeah, when I saw him, I was like, oh, a very cool chaplain. I also think he could actually work as a priest for Sisters of Battle Army. Sorry, I completely flubbed that. My brain misfired a whole bunch. But I think he could work as a priest in that army as well, which would be really cool. So he's definitely going to be something used by Imperial like factions, I think, very easily. And then finally, the last model that we got to see, and by far, I think my favorite model of all of them, we got to see the Lord-Commander, and it auto-corrected his name. It was Bastian something. It is auto-corrected it to CA2B. That's definitely not what it was. He was really cool. I often complain a lot of times about GW, especially when it comes to some of their lords or some of their character models, especially the named people, when they do kind of generic poses that just read really negatively. I criticized an Age of, it was a 40k model actually, I believe. No, it was an Age of Sigmar one because he has the hammers on his thing. It's Bastian Carthalos. Carthalos, that was his name. I apologize, it auto-corrected weird. He is super cool. He has a really, like, his pose is not super, like, wowing or anything like that. There's not a lot of motion. His cape is not flowing super majestically or anything like that. It's still flowing, but, like, there is such power to his stance. He is striding forward and he absolutely looks ready to deliver justice and like bring the light of Sigmar to the world. And I think that's really cool. I think this model just reads so well to me in comparison to the Sigmarine, whose name I've forgotten, that was like in the I have just landed superhero pose with his cape flying up. Like that is also another very generic sort of superhero stepping pose or landing pose that gets overused, and this is a walking pose that I feel like could be overused, but there's just something about it that I just really like. And so I think it's probably my favorite of the Stormcast Eternal models that we've seen. Now that I'm done gushing about all of these armored boys, let's go take a look at some orcs. Hey guys, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button and let me know about it down in the comments. If you haven't already and you're wanting more content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon for notifications. And then if you want even more hobby goodness, make sure to follow me on Instagram or Twitter at hobby_knight. Now, let's go ahead and get back to the video. Wah! Now, it's time to talk about my favorite boys. We've got the Kruelboyz. Oh, are they my favorite though? There is the Beast Snaggas. I haven't decided which are my favorite Orc boys, but let's talk about these Orc boys because we got some new models and I think they're really, really cool. Let's talk first about the two that already come in the Dominion box set, but they did cover. You're going to be getting some more Gutrippaz, which I think are great. They're going to come much in the same way that the Annihilators have another option for weapons. These guys are going to have a single-handed weapon as well as the two-handed option that you can get in the Dominion box set. So that is fantastic. I do really like to see, and I didn't mention this with the Stormcast Eternal at all, although they do have some that have musicians. The Orc models especially have a lot more musicians showing up, and I haven't looked to see specifically if that is because they've actually brought musicians back into the game in the same way that Warhammer Fantasy had them, or if this is just their way of trying to add additional variety and varying models into the armies and everything. But regardless, I really like it. I want to see more variety like this because I do enjoy the just depth that it adds to your armory composition and everything of just having these units on the board, especially when it comes to horde armies like the Orcs, because you can end up having so many models on the board that if they're all the same sculpt or roughly the same sculpt, everything can get really lost. Having these musicians mixed in and other different types of sculpts with like the banners and such always, and I know the banners are used, but like I don't know if the musicians are, but like having that in there, it looks really, really cool. I like seeing that diversity in there. We also got a look at the Man-skewer Boltboyz. Again, another model that we had seen for Dominion, but is going to have more options. And I think this is really good. I do really like these guys. I do like the heavy crossbow look. Just seeing that, I don't know, there's just a really cool energy out of it that I really enjoy. I think it's because it's weirdly a mix of a lot of wood textures with the metal to make all the contraptions and everything work. But all of the handles and all of that is all wood. And I don't know, the organic nature of it just really speaks to me. So I really, really like them. Now, we're done talking about the stuff that comes in Dominion, but is getting some extra options with some multi-part kits later. Let's talk about the brand new things because both of them are humongous and really cool, kind of terrifying, and I really, really, really want both of them. So the first one is the Marshcrawla Sloggoth, which just looks amazing. It's a super fun looking model. It's got like, it's so hideously cute. And the grots on the back are just adorable. There's one with a drum, which is great. So we have this, again, they're having a lot of musicians in there. There's a lot of diversification. And with the grots, we now have the pot grot, we have a stab grot, and we have a drum grot. I think for me, my favorite's still the pot grot, personally, but I do really like this drum guy. I need to see him up close and see him like the actual sculpt, because they showed us some really cool images of them painted up gorgeously and everything using a lot of those new paints that are coming out this weekend. But like, I want to see it up close. I want to like get my hands on this model because it looks super rad. It's got so much going on it. And I think that's really, really cool. I do worry a little bit about the, like the model has the grots are trying to like capture other infantry models and everything like that. So they've got these like pole arms sticking off the front. And I do slightly worry that those are going to get stuck on things, especially with how big sometimes the Age of Sigmar models are, and they have like all of this ornate stuff happening on them. There's so many little ways for the little hooks and stuff to get actually hooked onto something. So I do have some small concerns about it, like pulling other models off and like moving things accidentally or something like that. But other than that, it is a gorgeous model. The last model that they showed us for the Kruelboyz is by far the best thing that they showed us on this preview, in my opinion. It is the Swampboss Skumdrekk, and he is just so cool. Okay, we have to talk about his gigantic anteater lizard creature thing that he's riding, because it's the most hideously cute thing I've ever seen. I absolutely love his face. I love both, honestly, of the creatures' faces for both these models, both the one that we talked about previously and this, completely blanked on the Skumdrekk, because it's just so good. And they're so, like, it's a painter's dream. Like, there's organics, there's metals, there's woods, there's like, I know that's technically organic. It's just, there's so much cool stuff going on. The thing that does have me a little like concerned is there's a lot of kilobosses out there. There's a lot of new kiloboss models, and I know that you'll probably need a lot of them, but it seems like a lot, and I'm gonna have a hard time choosing which one to actually like run, build first, paint first, because like I have the one guy in Dominion who's really cool, and he's on a mounted creature. I've got the on foot dude that goes with the stab grot that comes in Dominion. And now there's also this guy that comes on the big mounted guy. There's just so many. There's so many of them, and I don't know which one to choose. So it's gonna be really hard to go for. There's so many cool new models. The one thing that I find really interesting about these models is the fact that they didn't show us any starter sets. Like, they went over all of these really cool models. They like showed us a bunch of neat things. They showed us the battletomes, which is the one other thing that we have not talked about. We did get a preview of both the Orruk and the Stormcast Eternal battletome, and the covers look really cool. I'm excited to see them. They did highlight the fact that there's going to be additional content in there to help you get going with the Crusade version for Age of Sigmar, so that you can start building stories around your models, building lists narratively and everything like that. So I think that's really cool. Looking forward to seeing that and seeing how people are enjoying that, because I know hopefully like Crusade will be a thing for 40k soon, now that people are able to play again. I'm hoping to see Age of Sigmar do the exact same thing. But with all of these new models that they showed, nothing was said about any starter sets. And that was really curious, considering the fact that I think Dominion is almost sold out, if not fully sold out already. And that's a really high price point for, say, families, mothers or fathers who want to get their kids maybe into the game to try to jump in. Now, yes, you do get a whole bunch of stuff for it, and it's a very good deal, but there is something missing when not having a starter set. And I feel like when Indomitus came out last year for 40k, when that launched, the weekend that it launched, they also announced a bunch of new models, of course, to go with the Necrons and the Space Marines. But they also announced the codexes and starter sets. They announced the recruitment kit, as well as the two other kits, and gave you some options for ways to start collecting those armies and get playing on a lower budget and everything like that. And honestly, Age of Sigmar, I feel like, is definitely something that needs that, should have that, because I feel like it is, like, it could be a very cool system for kids to get into. I feel like there's a lot of really cool models there for people to get into, and I feel like not having an easy entry point is weird, and that they haven't already announced one makes me go, okay, I assume they will have one, but when is it coming and how delayed are they? So it's kind of an interesting thing. And I think with that kind of wraps up this week in Warhammer news. There has been a lot of really cool models that we got to see this week. We have some questions about some starter sets. We got to talk about the Wurrboy. It's been a blast. Now, I have been Angela, you've been watching Hobby Night, and I will see you tomorrow for a hobby video, as well as a little bit of an announcement for some changes to the painting videos. And I wanted to give an extra special thanks to my patrons for supporting us on Patreon and helping us make these videos. You can find their names here, and if you'd like to be a part of this list, you can go ahead and find a link to the Patreon in the description below. Anyways, I have been Angela. Thank you guys so much for watching this week in Warhammer news, and I'll see you next time. Bye!